Welcome to the On Your Strength podcast. I'm your host, Steffi, and I am so happy to have you here. Today, I want to talk about past Steffi and Steffi now, walking with God and in faith. Have you ever looked back at who you used to be or who you thought you were and think now, wow, I can't even recognize this person? Because that is exactly how I feel now. After these past 5-6 weeks, being completely out of the lukewarm zone and being completely bold in my faith, not just at home, but specifically also on social media, and now obviously starting this pod, I can truly say this is probably the biggest testimony that I've had and how God is able to transform us and impact us and change us to the better, and how I wish everybody would feel the same way. But obviously we can't force anybody into their faith. They have to find to God themselves, and it will never be our job to force somebody into their faith. God knows what he's doing. They'll find to him in their time. At least I really hope they will do, and they don't push him away forever. Maybe you have been feeling the same way. Maybe you're very recent to your faith journey. Maybe you're in your faith journey for more time, for years, months, whatever it is. If you have listened to episode 1, you know that I had my on and offs within my faith. I went to church until I was 18 every single Sunday. We basically didn't miss one, even on vacation or whatever. But I never found to him in the same way that I did in September. I can tell you, obviously, I'm not a priest. I'm not here to preach as if we were in church, but I know that so many things in my life have been a huge testimony to God's work, and these past couple of weeks have been the biggest one because they have transformed me in a way I've never imagined that I would be transformed. And I want to give you a couple examples in fitness and motherhood, business, and my relationship with my husband, how these things have changed my perspective from before and how I see these things now. My purpose here is to share the gospel and share the word. And maybe you can relate. Maybe you are just starting with your journey, or you know somebody that is starting out. Maybe you're alone in your journey as I am. And that way we're just able to study and go over it together and share our thoughts and transformations and testimonies with each other and strengthen each other in our faith. So let's just start off with 6 weeks ago. I still had these crazy huge goals of training for a marathon at the same time as training for multiple high rocks races, while just starting out homeschooling with the kids, while just having a business in its first months, which is the On Your Strength app. But I focused so much on training twice a day, multiple days a week, almost no days off. And I would be so focused on my training. Training was my identity. Training was everything to me. And if I couldn't get my training in, I would get so frustrated, so angry. I would get annoyed at my life because I wasn't able to do these things. And I can tell you a big part of it was comparison too. We all know comparison is the thief of joy. God doesn't want us to compare us to anybody, but I was comparing myself to these pro athletes on social media way too much. And obviously being a coach and being in the fitness space as an athlete and a creator, I thought I had to keep up with that, keep up with these people and do the same, not realizing that all of them had completely different lives to mine. Most of them aren't married. Most of them, or none of the ones that I compare myself to have kids. So this is just to start off with it. I was comparing myself so much to these athletes on social media that I would literally get so pissed when I couldn't get my training sessions in, when I would eat a little bit off of what I was supposed to for my training, I would really neglect the relationship that I had with my children. I would neglect my household and my husband, but I would justify it and say, well, now is my time. Now it's my turn of doing these things because the kids are already a little bit older. Mind, I have a 5 and 10-year-old, but I would justify it by the 5-year-old doesn't need me as much as she used to, so I can focus more on my training. I would honestly justify it in very selfish ways that I didn't notice they were that selfish. I was blinding myself of what I was doing. My husband would always support me. He was constantly there. He would always support me. And he was like, yeah, do that. If it makes you happy, I just want you to be happy. So go on. I think he noticed that I wasn't fully me and I wasn't fully happy because I had many ups and downs, phases of where I was frustrated. I was more angry than anything. I was confused about where I should be, where I should stand as wife, as mother, as athlete. And I always felt like I'm not finding my place. I would kind of always feel off. I don't know if you noticed that or not, but I feel like it also was kind of shown on my social media. I was trying to be this person that God has not intended me to be. And I was just trying to push against it. I was trying to push against that feeling. I'm glad he opened my eyes. I'm glad that this blindness is gone. So many people are still blinded. And I hope you are not, or you have your eyes washed and are now seeing clear. So that was before. I also had these goals of not just these training goals, but I also had these physical aesthetic goals that were obsessive. I'm not saying the aesthetic goals that I have now because I still have aesthetic goals, and I have to be honest, we shouldn't be focused on our flesh, but at the same time we have to focus on our health. We have to maintain our body healthy, be grateful for the body that we have and treat it in the right way, and that involves training and proper nutrition, but it should never be as obsessive. I'm not a bodybuilder. I will never be a bodybuilder, and I will never want to be a person that is obsessive over their body. I have been like that before, and I don't want to be like that anymore. And I was becoming that person again. I would complain so much, especially after coming off of birth control, being off of it for 3 months and seeing a lot of changes in my body. I was so focused on that. And now I am no longer, obviously, I said it, I have still aesthetic goals, but I'm no longer obsessed over the way I look. I'm no longer obsessed about the fact that if I have to switch up my training a little bit, if I have to switch around my training days, if I'm taking another rest day, an extra rest day, either because I'm very exhausted or because I have just so many things going on that are priorities over a training day, then I will do that. And this is not an excuse. I still want you to understand that you should follow a structure within your fitness routine. You should follow it. You should not excuse your training days for laziness or excuse it. You should not excuse training days for just the reason that you don't feel like it. You should never do that, honestly, because you have to do the things even if you don't want to do them. Sometimes you just need to push through. The difference is before I was overdoing it. I was clearly overdoing it. And now I reduced my load of training. I reduced it for reasons to have more time to nurture my family and my home. I reduced them to reduce inflammation in my body because I was so insanely inflamed of the training load. My body was just not recovering properly or handling it properly. And I reduced the load because my goals are now different. So now I'm training 4 days a week. If I feel like it, I'll add an extra day more into it. But I changed the focus. I'm not training for a specific goal or race. I'm training for my health, for happiness, for muscle growth, or at least maintaining the muscle that I have. My heart health, which is very important to me. My nutrition is there to provide me with the best health that I can, but I'm still enjoying the foods that I want to enjoy, the fun foods that I don't have maybe on a daily basis, but weekly. I see things different now, and I have been going through very different phases in fitness throughout my fitness journey, which I'm almost 2 decades in, but I'm at peace now. It's the first time ever where I'm at peace if I have to switch around my training schedule, if I take another rest day in, if I didn't hit my macros perfectly to the T every single day. It's the first time ever that I feel at peace and I don't judge myself the way that I judged myself before. And again, I still have aesthetic goals, so I'm still working towards that, but it's just not this obsession, and I'm at peace with it. The next thing is motherhood. Motherhood is a big thing too. I started with fitness because obviously my page was all about fitness before God started speaking through me or guiding me. So I wanted to kind of clear that out of the way. It's still a big part of my life and my content, but it is not my identity, and it will no longer be just my only identity. It is part of me, and it's something that I love and I love to do, but it's not my whole identity. I have here my Neurotronic. It's a drink to help me focus a little bit. Over a liter. We have to get our water in. Anyway, with motherhood, this is big. Before, I would a lot of times complain about many things related to motherhood. I would complain about the limited time that I have. Maybe you're hearing the kids in the background right now, so you know that I don't have many quiet moments. And I would complain about having to waking up earlier to go to the gym because I couldn't leave the house during the day because my little one wouldn't leave the house, or my husband was working so he couldn't take care of the kids so that I could train. I would complain about not being able to train properly if they were around. I would complain about how my body changed because of pregnancies. I would complain about sleepless nights and hearing mom so many times a day. I would complain about being the main caretaker of the kids and always be there on the clock for them. Like they would literally it's always mama. I would complain about that it's always mama. Probably even a lot more other things. It was always coming from complaining. I would not see many things as a blessing. And I honestly I'm sad to say that, and I'm probably also a little bit ashamed to admit that I was this type of mother. I never wanted to be this type of mother. I know my mom didn't mean to be this type of mother, but I grew up with a mother like that, and I always said I don't want to be a mother like that. I was constantly complaining about how the kids ruined their life or changed their life, but I started to be a mother like that. I would every time say, because I'm a mom, I can't work, or I can't grow my business as much as I wanted to, or I can't be the athlete that I want to because of motherhood. That is something so sad to realize, that for so many years, I was not the mother that I was supposed to be. And I'm not saying I wasn't a loving mother. Obviously, I always was very much the cuddly mom and kissing mom and playful mom. But I would not take my role as mom as serious. I would put that very aside compared to other roles that I wanted to play. And now I'm seeing how bad that was. I'm seeing how sad that actually was, because now I can tell you being a mom is just such a blessing. It is such a blessing. And I'm not saying that I don't feel tired. I'm not saying that I don't enjoy some quiet time and some mom time. I mean, I wake up every day about 2 hours before the kids so that I can spend time in the Word, reading my Bible, praying, studying, drinking my coffee, my warm coffee by myself. Actually, I have to interrupt for a brief moment because the kids are bumping their heads at each other. So I have to quickly check on what is going on, and then we're coming back. We're back and we're sipping on an energy drink. And I have to tell you this because I'm going to be the most honest that you can imagine. But I just had a not so good discussion with my older one. She's a preteen, tell you. She's 10, but she's acting up like she's like 15. She was basically just acting up with her sister, made her sister cry. And I told them, well, you guys need to touch grass. You guys need to get out, go play in the backyard. We have a little playground type of thing in the backyard. And I told them, you need to get out, go into the sun, touch grass, recharge some energies. And I also want to start doing that and really be more attentive and get outside multiple times a day, because when you work from home, when you homeschool and train from home, you barely leave the house. It is so important to touch grass and get some sunlight in. It's a safe space there, but you guys need to get out in nature a little bit. And she just told me straight up, she hates going outside. And she doesn't hate going outside. She loves being outside, but she hates it when I tell her to do so. And I lost it a little bit. Obviously, that is something that I'm still working on, but also she struggles a little bit with respecting her parents and honoring her parents. And this is something that is huge to me, especially now. And I want her to learn and understand that she needs to honor her parents and her parents' word. And we have to be just a little bit more strict. I grew up differently. Strict for my parents was the strictest that you can imagine. Maybe you had the same childhood. And I didn't throw that at my parents. They didn't know better. But I also think that nowadays things are too soft for the kids. And I don't judge anybody who wants to go that route with their children. But I think we just need a little bit more strictness and rules in this house, especially the way she talks and acts with her parents. So yeah, had a quick moment. Back to where we were. The things that I see different now, especially with situations like these, is before that, I would lose it. I would yell at her. I would give her random punishments, which wouldn't make any sense, like taking away her stuff or whatever it is, which wouldn't teach her anything. And I wouldn't talk to her properly, and she wouldn't learn anything from it, or she wouldn't understand why she needs to honor her parents, why honoring her parents is so important. And I am way more firm and calm when I do these things, when I talk to her. And I am able to listen more, listen better, understand her side, but also always maintaining me as her mother, her teacher, and not just a friend, not a random friend. That is different, and she has to understand that. And these are the differences that I see now. The way that the strength that God gives me in these moments, so that I don't lose myself as I did before when we had conversations like these. Same goes to when I would have to wake up in the middle of the night because of my little one, and she had a nightmare. Now I don't feel this annoyance about that. Like before, I would get annoyed. Oh, she disrupted my sleep. Now it will take me forever to fall asleep again. Now I am not as rested for my training tomorrow. That's what I thought before. And now whenever it happens, and it doesn't happen that often, but whenever it happens, I see it as she needs me. I'm her mother. I'm her safe space. I'm going over there. She tells me what she went through, and I'm there to calm her. I'm there to give her some peace. I pray over her. That is big. I pray over her. And I see her as a blessing. Again, I'm blessed to be the person that is able to calm her down and give her the peace that she needs and the safe space that she needs to be able to fall asleep again. And this is such a blessing. I remember when I was a kid and I would have these nightmares, and my sister, who was sleeping next to me in her bed, would get so annoyed that I would wake her up in the middle of the night. And I couldn't do that with my parents because I would disrupt my dad's sleep, and he was working shifts, and I didn't want to do that. And I would just lay in bed forever without sleeping and crying because I was so scared. Again, not blaming my parents. That was just a me thing. Sometimes I would still crawl into their bed and they would cuddle me and give me some peace. But I see that in this way now with my kids. And same goes to homeschool. I was kind of afraid of homeschooling, but the main thing that I thought about homeschooling, or what made me think that I didn't want to do homeschool, it was the thought of taking away time from work to homeschool them. Literally the only reason why I didn't decide on homeschooling earlier was, again, because of a selfish thought, or I might not even have thought of it as selfish. I just, again, thought that I had to work as much as my husband to balance it out at home, which now just doesn't make any sense because we have different roles, we have different purposes in our home. But that was my thought about homeschooling. And now that we did it and we had our first week break, fall break, we completed a chapter. And honestly, the first month was a little bit out of the place because we got used to it. We got into the books and the online school and all these things, the different structure. And it was a little bit over the place. And now that we're going into the second chapter, I have a more clear path on how we will be structuring our days and weeks and what we need to accomplish, planned out when the holidays will be or the vacation days will be. But it is so cool to see what they were able to achieve, or what we were able to achieve in these past 4 weeks of homeschooling, and how much they have learned and how excited they're getting about homeschool. My little one, this entire week of being on vacation or fall break, she would ask me every single day, is it school today? Are we going to do school? Are we back to school? And it is just so fun and so amazing to see how much she's loving it. And her older sister too. Sometimes she goes like, we're done already? What do you mean we're done? And it's amazing. It's such a blessing that I'm able to teach them school at home. That is something that you're not able to do in Switzerland or Portugal. If you are a teacher, if you don't have a degree, you can't do that. It is not legal. And that is, again, something that we are so appreciative about here in the States. Have them under a roof, knowing exactly what is being put into their minds, and seeing them just understanding the things and being there when they don't understand it, and being able to be the one who makes it click for them. And yeah, this is something that I see, again, so different from what I thought before and how I see it now, and how much I value it. Even my husband, sometimes when he sees what they did that day, or when they tell him what they just learned, he's like, wow, that's amazing. You're doing such an amazing job. That is so beautiful. And we wouldn't see that before, especially when our older one came home from school. We wouldn't see the same reactions out of her. Aside from my relationship with my husband has drastically changed since I found back to God. We have different perspectives. He believes in God. He prays to God, but he doesn't have the same relationship to God as I do. I won't force him. I won't push him into that. But he sees the impact that God has been having on me. And he literally just told me this week, the glow that I have is something that I didn't have before. And now he sees me glowing. Whenever I do certain things, I'm glowing. And glowing is the word that I have been hearing the most also from my community on social media. With him, things have changed in a way where before I would kind of feel sad that my business wasn't going as his business is going, or I wasn't making as much money as he does, or I would a lot of times judge him, or I would complain that he just has more time to do the things or focus on his work more than I do. I would complain about our roles being different, and I would compare our roles a lot. And we would fight over it, but I would definitely tell him more than I should how I was feeling. And now I look back and I'm just like, that is so sad. Again, so sad that I viewed it in that way. And now I couldn't be happier how our roles are. My husband as the provider in the family, and me as a helpmate, and me as the one who is nurturing the family and taking care of the family in ways that my husband isn't taking care of, and the other way around. So we are complementing each other every single day. We are complementing each other, but we don't have the same roles. And that was kind of the thing that I was misunderstanding. I was trying to have the same role as he does, and I was expecting him to have the same role as I do, but we're not supposed to be like that. And I was fighting against it. I was fighting against that. And maybe it was also because we've never had this conversation of where our roles should be and where we are in our season of life. And that was probably what made the biggest difference. When we had this conversation of where our roles are right now, where they're supposed to be. And when I shared with him that maybe I need to step back a little bit when it comes to work to be able to be the helpmate, the wife, the mother, the caretaker of the home. I was afraid maybe that he would react in a different way, that he would say, hey, you still have to keep going with your work. But it was completely the opposite. He said, I'm glad you said that, because I think so too. I think that we are just in a different season of life, and I was never expecting you to match my workload. I didn't want to tell you this because I want you to hit your goals and go after what you want for your business and your work. And I would never want to be the person that makes you step away from it or slow it down. I always want to bring you more forward or push you. But he also noticed that it was just too much and that something had to change. But he didn't want to be the person to say it because he didn't want me to understand it incorrectly and cause any confusion or any misunderstandings within our relationship. And now we have it structured pretty solid. And I mean, when I told him about the podcast and about how the app will change, he was like, hey, I think that is beautiful. And if you feel like you can do these things, I'm all for it. Know that I support you in every single way. And again, I don't think that we could have had this conversation with each other and growing our relationship like that if I didn't let God speak to me and speak through me and open my eyes in this way too. I was so focused on my pride. I wanted to be that hustle mommy, that business mom. I didn't want to be the housewife or just the stay-at-home mom. And I'm still a stay-at-home mom. I work at the same time, but I just don't work as much anymore, or my focus has shifted. My vision for my business has shifted a lot. So I want to also tell you how this has changed my view on my business, talking about that. If you don't know it already, I have my fitness app, the Own Your Strength app, and we still have the app up and running. We still have all our programs in there and our recipe library and everything that the app includes. It's still same as it was when we launched it back a couple months ago. And I had ads recorded. We had content recorded and content edited for weeks to go to promote the app. I still love my app. I still love the programs that are on there. But I know that something had to change. It had to be very different. And it has to relate to who I am now. Because I honestly feel like a completely different person. And I can't tell you that it's not like that. I feel completely transformed. So what happens, or what I thought I had to be before, and I've talked about that already a couple times now in this past half an hour. I thought that my business had to be this fitness empire with all these solid training plans and all the recipes and the tracking for your food and barcode scanner and just full on athlete mode. No matter if you are a mom, busy girl, I thought that it had to be that hardcore fitness app, and we are building a fitness empire, and that was what it all was about. And I had to have this athlete presence that people would look up to and be inspired by as an athlete that is grinding through. And now I'm just like, who are you? Who are you? How did you think that you could be this type of person? Because you're not. You're not just that. You're not just a pro athlete out there. There's so much more in your life going on, and you're not living a life of a pro athlete. It is very different from what you are living. And how are you supposed to live for your business in that way and focus on something completely different or living something completely different? I was so focused on growing my business, having more followers, being known as an athlete, or inspiring people only for training and for how I look, how they should look. I would be amazed when people would tell me your body goals, your training goals, something like that. And not that I don't value that and I don't see appreciation in people who would comment that. But now I have this clear vision that I'd rather have impact on somebody's life, even if it's just one, of them picking up the Bible and then praying to God and then finding back to their faith, even if it's just one person, over anything else body related or fitness related. And again, I still love training. I still love the gym. The gym rat in me is still there. I love that I'm still able to help people and motivate people to go to the gym and motivate you guys to take care of your health inside and outside. I'm not saying that I don't care about that at all anymore. But somebody finding back to their faith has so much more value to me and is so much more important. God is our Savior, and He is the one that we need more than anything. A transformation within your body is amazing. If you can transform your health from something that was not so good to something that is so good, if you can transform your heart health to the better, if you can find confidence within your fitness abilities or whatever you're doing at the gym, that is so amazing. But I can truly tell you, nothing is as transformative as God. The Lord our Savior is what transforms us the most and always to the better. I can tell you fitness is not always as transformative to the better as we think sometimes. But with the business, how things have changed now, I have decided to switch around a lot of things. So the app will have this podcast in it. The app will have a lot of focus on our faith, the community. I will also be sharing some Bible studies in app. I still will have training plans in it, or at least one training plan, which will be an exciting one throughout the entire year, more generalized for strength training, to build muscle, to have a solid heart health, but nothing like hardcore recipes, but recipes still very much focused on family recipes, things that you can cook for yourself or for the entire family. So things will change. It will not be like a huge drastic change, but it just will go away from solely fitness focused content to faith-based content, focused on our community, focused on supporting you outside the gym as well. So you'll have the support inside the gym, but also the important parts outside of it, which was missing before. And I knew that something was missing. And now that I know that it was our faith that was missing. It was something so important as our faith that needed to go into the app. And again, our community, having a solid community of like-minded people where you can share your thoughts and just let things out sometimes, especially if you don't have, I'd say, the same community in your circle around you. And I can completely understand that, again, because I'm living it. So it's nice to have at least having something good out of social media and the online world, where if you don't have this faith-based community close to you in real life, we can have that through social media, which is pretty nice. With all that to say, is that the transformation that I had from having my faith being very distant, being something that was optional, something that I put aside and picked up whenever I wanted to now making it a non-negotiable, being every day there with God, with the Word, with the Lord, and letting Him guide me and trusting in Him and finding the peace in Him and in His vision for me and my path. So with that being said, I want to go into Romans 12:2 and have a quick Bible study session, as I want to make this a huge part of the pod. Do not be conformed to this age, but transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you may discern what is the good, pleasing, and perfect will of God. When I went into this verse, I also noted down a little help for myself whenever I'm grabbing Romans 12:2. What I see from this verse, or I want to remind myself of, not letting culture, trends, etc. of the world shape who I am or supposed to be. Transformation starts inside, gaining clarity in God's will through Him. And when I went over the verse, again, I told you from the beginning, I grabbed Chat Bestie here to help me reflect on that verse and reflect on this perspective, on this transformation that I've been going through from the past to now. This verse isn't about trying harder to be different. It's about surrendering your mind to God daily and letting Him do the transforming. Again, we're not trying to be somebody else because we just want to be somebody else, or because we want to fit into a box, or we want to fit into a trend that is now going on social media. But we're letting Him transform us to the person that we're supposed to be, that He wants us to be, that He envisioned us to be, and not that we are pressured to be because we feel pressured because of social media or whatever trend is going on. Here's the takeaway that I want you to ask yourself, and I asked myself as well. Am I conforming to the world, or am I being transformed by God's truth? Transformation begins with small daily renewals of your mind. And I think that is one of the most powerful things that we can think about. Are we acting in our daily habits out of things that we see, that we think we are supposed to do because we see other people doing it? Or are we doing it because God is leading us in that way? Because I can tell you, I wanted to do this pod for many, many years, but for many different reasons, with a completely different theme and completely different talking points. And it's the first time in a long time where I felt like this is the moment, and it is for a completely different purpose. Now I'm doing this to be the testimony, another testimony of God's work, and sharing His gospel and sharing my take on it, and bringing this community closer to God all together, maybe even helping you on this journey. And I've got a lot of feedback on my social media since sharing more boldly about my faith, and honestly changing my content almost completely up. But the feedback that I've gotten, that I've inspired so many people to pick up a Bible or purchase their first Bible, and also getting them into the Word of God. That is my purpose. That is literally where God has put me into. And I didn't start this podcast because podcasts are now trending. We have podcasts forever. And probably the first time that I thought about starting one was when it became such a hype to do. But now, this time, I just felt like I have a voice. I want to use my voice. I have let social media silence my voice for way too long. I've let social media change me to somebody or multiple different persons over years because of what was trending, or because of what I thought I had to be compared to others. This time I feel such at peace. And I want to use my voice for that. I want to use the voice God gave me for his word. And even though we haven't planned out the episodes to come and we haven't structured it out as maybe another business would have done, I know that God is just guiding me. God is just showing me the way. And I let him work through me as I have let him work through me for these past weeks and the transformation that he has been making. So I know that I just will continue to do so. But one important take on here, again, as I said in the reflection, is that we have to be daily with him. We have to let him renew our mind every single day, because there are still a lot of moments where I have the same thoughts that I had before, or I catch myself, again, compare to these girls that I did before, compared to these athletes that I did before. I catch myself still having these thoughts as a mom and as a wife and with my household. But every single day, I'm catching myself having these negative or these thoughts brought up by evil. I catch myself way quicker every single day, a little bit more, that I'm not supposed to have these thoughts. These thoughts should not be in my mind. That is not God speaking through me. And I'm every single day a little bit more able to switch them around quicker. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I wasn't with God every single day, if I wouldn't put the work in to be with him every single day, or pray over these things. Ask him to guide me. Ask him to use me in his word and his vision for me, for my path through him. Now I would love for you to do one thing. After you listen to this episode, write down one way you have grown from you then versus you now. Because it's honestly so easy to forget how far we've come. It is so easy to live in the daily moment and not see the transformation that we have been going through if you don't really take the time or this moment to reflect on it. And for today, that's exactly what I did. I reflected on how much God has transformed me in such a little amount of time. If you look at it, in such a little amount of time, He's been able to transform me into what feels like a completely different person. There's not one single thing that I would say the transformation has been worse. It has been just better. How I look at my body, how I look at my fitness journey and my health, how I look at my relationship to God, how I look at my relationship to my children, my husband, and how I view things in my household and my business. So yeah, reflect on that. If you want to send us a message in the WhatsApp group chat, send me a DM. My DMs are always open. I would love to have a conversation with you. If you want to share anything, for upcoming podcast episodes, I'm all ears. I would love to hear your thoughts. And that is it. If you want to share it, if you feel called to share your transformation, please do so. I'm here to listen to it, to read it, to reply to it, give my 2 cents on it if you want to hear it. But yeah, again, guys, I appreciate you so much for listening, for tuning in, for supporting this new pod and this new journey all together. And I will hear you next Monday. Bye, guys. If you're still here, that means you're a real one, which is why I'm about to share something just for you. We have a private WhatsApp community called OISWC. It's a safe space for Christians who want to balance faith, parenthood, and real life while supporting each other in training with purpose and growing with Christ. Inside, we'll have moments of prayer and reflection, conversations about parenthood, family, and daily life, simple workout and nutrition tips, quick recipes, practical advice, and mutual support. It's all about respect, encouragement, and keeping the focus on faith, family, and health. No debates, no distractions. Just a warm community where what's shared stays safe. If that's what you've been looking for, the link is waiting for you in the show notes. Come join us. We'd love to welcome you in.